welcome back to Salmon's Pizzeria. We are back for the Championship Penitentiary in what I can only assume is going to be a pretty long episode, seeing as it has been an interesting week of action on the pitch, especially. I am joined by the returning Enzo. How are you, Enzo?
I'm very good. Yeah, I've been busy over the past few weeks, so disappointed not to get the chance to come on. Well, starting from last week when we won anyway, I started being disappointed not to get the chance to come on. But it's good to come on and talk a little bit about what's been going on. It's been busy, as you say, quite positive for us when I wasn't expecting that to be the case. So, yes, thanks for having me.
And of course, joined by the ever-present Kieran Ashton. How are you, Kieran?
I am all right. Delighted to be back on. Just last week, I was celebrating Thistle's 150th anniversary and them ruining my life for about 13 years of that 150 years. But nonetheless, delighted to be back on talking about obviously Thistle results. Spoiler alert later, but and also a bumper, not even weekend, a week, shall we say, a Scottish Championship action. Can't wait to discuss it.
Yes, we do definitely have a lot to start with. And before we go into the weekend's fixtures, we do, of course, have some of the midweek action. Challenge Cup semi final, the other one finally got played. St Johnstone against Ayr. It did happen at Falkirk Stadium instead of in Perth due to the state of the pitch. Ayr were 3-1 up going into the final 10 minutes, but St Johnstone managed to bring it back to 3-all, although it proved to be a bit pointless in the end, seeing as Ayr did manage to go on to win on penalties. And this now means that Ayr will take on Inverness in the semi final. So we finally have the full draw for the semi final done. Finally. But in the championship, there was, of course, a game, and it was Ian Murray's Greenock Morton versus Dunfermline. And surprise, surprise, Dunfermline lost to Ian Murray. Goals from Eamon Brophy and Cameron McPherson managed to defeat Dunfermline 2-0. This result moves Morton up to, at the time, up to 5th, which, considering their season so far, is pretty impressive. Ian Murray, as mentioned, once again beating Dunfermline. From what I heard from Morton fans, this game could have easily been 5 or 6 in this one. Dunfermline definitely weren't helped by Kieran and Wenya getting sent off. Any thoughts on this result?
I think it was a bit of a strange one because even Morton went 2-0 up, they very clearly took their foot off the gas, and I think they could have kept pushing for more. And I think if I were a Morton fan, given that there's this kind of cluster of teams now run about the middle of the league, I mean, arguably from fourth right down to eighth, even ninth, or maybe 10th. I mean, there's still a lot of football to be played, and I'd have been a little bit disappointed in not coming away with 3 or 4 goals that night because goal difference could be a significant factor come the end of the season. But ultimately, they I don't want to spoil it because I was going to say they have been playing all right under Ian Murray. Obviously, that kind of came to an end. I think got his first defeat on Saturday there, but they looked really good. They honestly played some really nice football from what I saw. Dunfermline, however, I know I've not been particularly impressed with Dunfermline all season. If I'm honest with you, I never really truly believed that they would be a top 4 team. I still don't think they'll be a top 4 team. But I couldn't quite believe how terrible they are, and they're on a really really poor run of form right now. And if I were a Dunfermline fan, I would probably be quite concerned about getting dragged into the bottom 2 places. Realistically, don't know how don't know how likely it is that all the teams below them will pull like enough points together for that to make that happen. That's the biggest issue. But if it was purely based on their own performances, I certainly wouldn't rule that out.
I think we'll get on to Dunfermline and whatnot a bit more after the Saturday fixtures. Kieran, anything to say
Sure,
on?
yeah, yep.
Just obviously, don't want to jump the gun ahead of it. Talking about the Fairman's result on Saturday as well, but that was certainly a common theme of their concerns as being potentially being dragged down the leagues into the dogfight kind of thing. I mean, on the game itself, Martin had them on the ropes for the get go, pretty much. And as Enzo said there, if they wanted to be 4 or 5-0 on that night, they very well could have. I don't really think Dunfermline what I've seen anyway for the highlights, he didn't particularly threaten Morton at all. Even when he went 1-0 down, 2-0 down, obviously wouldn't help when Glenroy gets sent off as well. But Morton as well missed a penalty as well, so it very well could have been 3-0. But then they obviously made up for that by scoring the penalty they got in the second half. But Dunfermline, just they didn't look up to much whatsoever. And
They have
100%.
so many injuries right now too, which is just gonna kill them. I think. Like when you look at the teams that they're putting out, and I don't want to roll both games into one, but they are both linked in a way. It's just like their backline in particular. It's just all wee boys. So many young players, and I've seen it myself watching Queens Park last season, the year before more so. I would say where it's a cliche, but you really need experience around these young players. Otherwise, you're going to leave them exposed and their heads are going to go down and they're not even going to learn anything. You're going to pick up bad results and it's going to do their confidence in. And I really fear for them, if I'm honest.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's pretty much what I've seen for Dunfermline fans anyway. That's been their concern. A few of them calling for Lennon's head as well, especially after Saturday. And again, don't want to jump the gun here, talk about their game away to Arbroath, but I certainly he's on a sugar peg as well. Lennon, I think he has been on like at certain spells towards during this season. I think it kind of died down when they were doing a bit, better. But there's been about 3 or 4 times now the pressure's been on him, especially in his job as well. And it's massive result for Morton, mind you, on the face of it. Really big result for them. You would like to think it kind of would drag them out the kind of dogfight, but we'll go on to Saturday's result, the one that concerns Enzo as well. So, but nonetheless, it's just, again, it's just on the face of it. I think I'm going to mention this word when we talk about the game on Saturday as well. It's just so inconsistent. Dunfermline, they're far too inconsistent. And if you want to have aspirations of getting to the top flight or put a push for promotion, you need that consistency, and they've just not had it. They've not had it for a good few seasons now.
Speaking of Morton and them going up to 5th, it was on them when it was me and Kieran for last week's episode. It's like we recorded it on the Monday before the game, and it wasn't until like the very end when I was going over like, the league table I realised, oh, hold on a minute, Morton with a win can end up in 5th. And I just could not believe it, just with how they've been this season. But massive result for the turn. But before we get into the Saturday games, it is of course Friday night under the lights. This time at Starks Park, Raith Rovers were at home to St Johnstone. Raith last week had a 0-0 draw away at Morton. St Johnstone, meanwhile, they had their defeat against Ayr, and of course a narrow 1-0 win away at Airdrie, but were looking to extend their gap at the top, if only temporary. There's only one way I can possibly open this match, and it is that calamity in front of goal about 10 minutes in for St Johnstone. It is the funniest thing. It's one of the funniest things I have seen an opposition team do at Starks Park, where there's a shot from, I think it was Gullen. I think it was Jimmy Gullen that took the shot, and it got deflected, and it's just sort of floating towards the goal, but obviously it's like Josh Ray's somewhat wrong-footed, but he just like gets a hand to it, and he's like parries it off of Josh Fowler, who's running onto it. And he's got that much momentum. It does get a decent bit of power, but it goes up and hits the bar. And then it bounces perfectly to Sam Stanton, former Rover, who had left in not great circumstances, shall we say. He was getting plenty of abuse from the South Stand.
Yeah.
And he hits a nice, sweet volley straight into Josh Fowler's face, who has stood on the line.
I mean, is it funnier to you as a Rovers fan that it was Stanton of all people in that particular situation? Yeah. And it's funny because you watch it back, and like as soon as it happens, Fowler's like hands just go straight up and cover his face, and I'm wondering, like, is he doing that because that must have been really sore, or is he actually just totally ashamed of the fact that he managed to get in the way of that, and he didn't actually bury the first chance when he probably should as well. Maybe even a combination of both of them, but that is absolutely calamitous. I have absolutely no idea how that didn't find the back of the net. It's one of those ones where if that happens, because what was it? It was just 10, 11 minutes into the game.
Aye.
When that happens, you kind of go, "Oh no, is it going to be was it going to be one of those nights?" And given that Wraith are pretty decent defensively and maybe not that great going forward, I'm sure you wouldn't disagree with that probably right now, Callum. At that point, you're already thinking this is going to be 0-0. Nobody's going to score here.
I know it was even funnier seeing. So it's like Stanton wheeled away to celebrate as well.
Well, they both claimed it. They both were like, hold on, actually, wait a minute. No, I was over that was over the line. Obviously, it wasn't over the line, but you can't blame them for trying, I suppose.
I know, it was. I just couldn't believe what I'd witnessed. It was so funny, and it makes it even funnier the fact that the game was stopped immediately after because Fair City Unity set half the North Stand alight. Well, it didn't set it on fire, but they had their flares out. And it's Grant Anderson was the co-commentator for Wraith TV, and as main commentator was saying the referee's going to have to stop this, and Grant Anderson just went, "Yeah, but it looks good though," which, to be fair, he's not wrong. But it's from that stoppage. Ironically enough, it really shifted momentum. Wraith for the rest of that half were looking more likely to get a goal. We did have the ball in the back of the net. A bit of a scramble. The ball falls to Lewis Vaughan, who gets into the back of the net, but is deemed offside. But upon further replay, he's on. But the thing is, if VAR was around, it would change it to be a goal given. But the thing is, it's one of those where you can understand why it was deemed offside, because Vaughan was coming back from an offside position, and for the linesman's line of sight, he's got a St Johnstone player who's on the edge of the box, coming away from it. Then have, I think it was Darragh O'Connor. It was either Darragh O'Connor or Ennis Cameron, who was just inside the box coming away, and of course Vaughan's the other side of them and is just coming back in, and the linesman can't see that, so it's one of those where it's what it is. It happens. Not one to get too worked up about, and Wraith nearly got another goal not long after. Again, another scramble, and Stewart made a save and then manages to recover it right before Lewis Vaughan gets to it. And weirdly enough, Dougie Emery seemed to criticise Vaughan for it.
I saw that. Yeah, that was surprising.
I think that could Vaughan maybe have gone in a bit harder, maybe, but then of course he might end up injuring the goalkeeper, all that sort of stuff. But really, it's just, as I said at the time, that is just really just excellent goalkeeping. That's just what it is to recover that. But second half, the only real thing to talk about is my favourite part of this podcast. Ref Watch. It's back. So, the referee for this match was Ross Hardy, and oh my word, was it terrible. It was terrible. He was booed off at halftime, and it was abysmal. It was utterly abysmal refereeing, because it seemed to be a case of every time a St Johnstone player got nudged or whatever, they would go down and win a free kick, and it was just really frustrating because there would be times where something similar or something more egregious would happen to a Wraith player and nothing would get called. It was just, it's I'm used to referees being shite at this level, but it's usually for both teams. In this one, it just seemed to be only for us. And, it's obviously, first half, not happy about that. 90 seconds into the second half, and my word, he may have just caused a riot, because Jack Hamilton gets the ball just in his own half, and he heads it out to the byline, completely under control. and he's going around Diabate, and then he nods it around again. So he's done this looping motion around Diabate. And as he's trying to get past, Diabate with both hands on his back drags him down. Nothing. Diabate is the last man. And it's, it's like, I was fully ready to just go off about it not being a red card at the time, which in reality, I mean, we've seen with Dogso denial goal scoring opportunities in the Premiership so far, like this past week and a bit. I was like, you can be sent off for that at the halfway line. But, I was fully prepared to only be annoyed at it being just a yellow. I was not prepared for it to not even be giving us a foul. Like, it looked so obvious that it was a foul. And, it's like, there's like some claims from St. Johnstone fans about, oh, well, Hamilton was holding on to Diabate as well. But it's like, you look at it and he's not until he's on the way down. It was utterly ridiculous, and I just could not believe what I was seeing. It's like my head was gone. My head was completely gone. It was just like, how the fuck?
I
couldn't believe it.
I don't think it was a red card, if I'm honest with you. But I can understand the frustration at nothing happening at all, especially because now I know the kind of player Diabate is. He'll have been getting stuck in all game, realistically. So I suspect it won't have been the first foul that he committed all evening. It's just the kind of type of player that he is, and that'll have probably swayed your opinion of your expectation in in those circumstances as well. But like you say, Callum, the refs at this level are just so poor, so inconsistent.
Yeah.
That you expect to come out of every single game with at least one or two complaints. It's just the nature of it, and I don't know what the solution is because it's so consistent across the board right now that it's impacting results and it's impacting potentially league tables and stuff as well. And they're going to need to review it in some capacity.
It's like the worst thing about this one was the fact that there was even it's like despite that happening to him, Hamilton didn't react. But the thing is, he couldn't react because he'd got booked for reacting to something happening in the first half. And it's like if he'd done it again, then knowing how the referee was on Friday, then he probably would have got a second booking and sent off. But
well, in that case, he did well to restrain himself because I'd have been raging there too, probably.
No, definitely.
Like fair play for restraining himself because I would not have been a very happy man as a player. But
as Enzo says, sorry, Callum, as Enzo says, he's done well not to react there. So that's obviously him and a yellow he reacts to that. He's off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a second booking. So he's done well to react there. But I thought our referee on Saturday was pretty. I don't have exact kind of examples. I don't actually have that in my notes, but I remember that from memory as well. That on Saturday there was one or two kind of things that happened for not just the referee, to be honest, but the linesman as well. For both teams they were pretty poor. And as Enzo says, you're coming away for games at this level. I mean, even I think VAR's getting talked about this weekend with the top flight. A few kind of decisions were kind of wrongly given and weren't kind of given. Championship, it's 10 times worse than it has been for ages now.
It's like with the Premiership fans, it's like they at least have VAR to correct errors. We don't, and I honestly think it's like if a team that's been in the Premiership for a while now has gotten used to VAR correcting referee mistakes, if they were to come down, it's like they wouldn't last like 20 minutes. They wouldn't last 20 minutes before realizing, oh god, it can get worse. But so rest of the second half, not really much to talk about, despite first half having plenty, and then of course that incident there just after half time. There wasn't much. Like St. Johnstone had a majority of the ball and were, for the most part, kind of camped outside our box, but they weren't really doing anything. Like nothing threatening, really.
I feel like that's because of the way Wraith were set up. I think the longer that game went on, Emery was more concerned about not losing than finding a way to win. And that's just kind of the kind of manager that he is. He did that at times against for Morton as well, and they were playing against better teams, and they became quite good at it, to be fair. Just like I think Wraith did a solid enough job of it on Friday. It's maybe not necessarily the most exciting football to watch at times. I mean, there were stretches where basically the entire Wraith team was behind the ball, but it worked. You have to do that. I know that St Johnstone were obviously missing Josh McPake, which is a big problem for them because he's been so influential in pretty much every single game that they've won this season. But I did very much feel like, I know as you say, there were chances early on in particular, but I feel as though Emery would have probably been quite content to take a point before a ball was even kicked on Friday night.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know what you're. Well, exactly. Definitely.
I know. It's like evidently the game did finish 0-0, and to be fair, I'm happy with it, really, because it's St Johnstone. It's good. It's at the top of the league. It's a good point. It's a really good point to get, especially with the added context of the results of Saturday. It's a very good point to get. And it was better than. It's a weird one because Morton away with another 0-0, and it's like on the one hand, getting a draw at Capello, which is a pretty difficult place to go to, is a good result. But it was just like the way we got the Morton draw. It's like we were terrible in the game against Morton, and it's like I said in the first half, we had those two really good opportunities. A goal chalked off us offside. It's like there was an attempt to win the game, really. So I am happy enough with that. But it's like when it comes to St Johnstone, this is once again a game that was saved by Toby Stewart, which is probably getting concerning because it's like without him, that's what. So it's like they would have dropped 2 points to Airdrie if not for a ridiculous save. They would have ended up dropping 3 points rather than 2 against us. It's definitely getting worrisome for Saints fans at the moment.
Yes, I agree with that. I think they're not on the sort of form that you would necessarily expect them to be. If you look at statistically, if you look at their results, like as the season progresses, the kind of average number of points they're picking up on a month by month basis is starting to kind of slide a little bit. I mean, in their last 4 games, they've picked up 4 points, I think, potentially. No, 5 points, I think, in the last 4 games.
Aye.
Which is not really. Is it 5? Yeah, 1 win and 2 draws and 1 loss, and that's probably not the former champions when you're getting into this stage of the season where every single game counts.
Yeah, it's the opposite of the St Johnstone team that last came to Starks, where they got a 2-0 win, and it was really through them punishing areas just because of the fact that they had the quality to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like throughout that game, you just had this knowledge that any mistake will lead to a St Johnstone goal, and that's what ended up happening. Whereas with this one, just didn't feel that. No worry whatsoever, really. It's like obviously there was that opportunity in like 10 minutes in, but it's like aside from that, it was just pretty pedestrian from them. Kieran, your thoughts on this game?
I think you've pretty much just nailed everything I was going to say in the head, to be honest. I was seeing for both kind of sides of the coin. For the St Johnstone Airdrie fans, it was all in all, other than the hilarious miss that you could say, and the kind of referee blunders that we've talked about. It was a pretty boring game of football, all in all. I think Rafe set up well to get the point. On the face of it, it is a good point, and it's a clean sheet as well against the league leaders. I don't think a Rafe fan would really complain with that, but it's still an hour draw. You know what I mean? it's we can I think you can kind of take it because it's the league leaders and circumstantial. It's a good point, but it's not a draw for Rafe. You know what I mean? They start picking up wins. The same with a couple of other teams that are around about that area as well. But I thought Rovers were obviously unlucky not to take the lead in the first half for the chances that they had. Obviously, they had the goal chopped offside, and they had another couple of chances after that as well. But I say what I watched anyway. I mean, I didn't watch it live. I think we discussed that off air, but I'm gutted I missed that first chance sitter involved with Stanton and Fowler. But I think that result obviously then put pressure on us to having to win on Saturday, and obviously that I don't like that kind of suits us having the pressure on it. But obviously we're going to talk about that, talk about our game in a bit. But it's kind of it's kind of for Rafe kind of point of view. It's like, all right, we'll take it. You know what I mean, kind of thing. You're going to take a point and a clean sheet against the league leaders every day of the week. You know what I mean? But for St Johnstone, that's points dropped again. And it's if you're wanting to kind of pull away from the league and that, you can't be having performances like that. Especially when we've got games in the midweek as well, games in hand as well against Enzo's Queen's Park. We'll probably go on to talk about that later on as well when we preview the games. But it's not looking good. It certainly had me licking my lips, but kind of as well cautiously because we could quite easily lost to Airdrie on Saturday as well, and it's happened to us before when all the the league leaders have dropped points and we've went on to play our game they've dropped points. But it's kind of not looking good for St Johnstone. Weird saying that because they're still top of the league, but it's kind of the performances and the results are starting to dwindle a wee bit, and you wouldn't expect that from a team that has been leading the league for the majority of the season.
It's like they still comfortably have the best goal difference. It's like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's after results on Saturday. Partick Thistle still in second. Their goal difference is 10, and that's the second best in the league. St Johnstone's is 26. Like it's like the top goal scorers, and they've got the best defense, but they're just not getting the results and the performances for the past. Like Cal has been saying, it's been going on basically all winter. It's like they put everything in that first quarter, and since then they've just sort of been coasting. Is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I was talking about this on Saturday, and this isn't necessarily just relevant to St Johnstone, I suppose. But I actually believe this is probably the weakest this division's been in a number of years, just across the board.
Yeah.
I think the standard is relatively low this season, and I don't think the St Johnstone team would be that close to Falkirk or even Dundee United a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I can see where you're getting at. I would have probably said last season, just due to we had Falkirk, Livingston, and Accies, and the start that Airdrie had in Queen's Park with a 10-game losing run and other bizarre shenanigans. Dunfermline having the worst attack in basically all of Scotland. I'd say I can see where you're coming from. It is a bit like Dundee United a couple of seasons ago, where it's like on paper they have by far and away the best squad, but there is a significant underperformance.
Yeah, I think what I mean by that, to clarify, I think so yes, there were probably the poorest. We've had divisions where the poorest teams are worse than what's in this division. But what I mean is across the board, the average standard, and this is why we have so many teams within 7 points of each other or something like that from fifth down or whatever. So I don't know. I don't believe that. I think if St Johnstone were really that good, they would have another 8 or 9 points on the board by now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
that's how I see it.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's like with how that first quarter was going, we were saying about potentially breaking Hearts' points total, and now it's like, no, I don't even think they can reach that anymore. It's 11 games left. They can only get up to 83. Up to 83 points. I think Hearts' record is something ridiculous, like it's like 90 or something daft like that. But enough about that game then. We shall finally move on to Saturday's fixtures. And having had the league leaders drop more points, I think it's best to go on to the game between Partick Thistle and Airdrie, where Partick Thistle were looking to close the gap to just 3 points, whilst Airdrie, they're looking for points in their battle to stay up. Kieran, you're at this game, so I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, first of all, this was a game that fell closest to the club's 150th anniversary. Mind you, there wasn't much promotion from it for the club. Ultras Thistle done really well to kind of organise a tifo display before the game as well. So that was good. I think we done a thing where it was like take a friend for free. I think season ticket holders could take a friend for free. So it was good. That was good as well. Despite there not being much real fanfare kind of thing for this for it being such a big occasion. So that was a bit kind of disappointing for that. But Ultras Thistle, first of all, got to give them my good plaudits for that. Fantastic display. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it was a banner basically said Partick Thistle Football Club, 150 years, 1876 to 2026. So it was really good. That kind of kicked off a start for a good atmosphere kind of thing for the game. Obviously, it's against a rival, you could say. So it was good. I think the North Stand was close to full capacity as well. I think there was just under 4,000 fans there. So for the championship game, that's really good. But onto the game itself. Obviously, the game on Friday night, the St Johnstone result, put the pressure on us, just as I said. And I think before it, heading into it, was like I've seen games where Thistle have been in a title race before, or been in, in amongst that kind of conversation, and we've went and fucked it against a team that are especially down the bottom end of the table. But apart from Airdrie had probably a decent wee spell, maybe 5-10 minutes into the game, there were a couple of chances. It was about as comfortable a 1-0 as you could get for us. Obviously, Stanway scored an incredible goal. And on that, it was his 100th appearance for Thistle as well. It was fantastic free kick. I think it was just outside the box. Tony Watt done well to, win the free kick, shall we say. A bit of a theatrical dive, but it wasn't a dive, but it went down theatrically, shall we say. But nonetheless, it was a really good goal for Stanway on his 100th appearance, as I said. And even if we go up this season, I don't think we'll keep a hold of Stanway. I think he's that good. Maybe if we stay up, I think Mark Wilson's hell bent on keeping him at Thistle, but I don't know. I think even if we do go up, I think if Motherwell come in for him or something like that, or I think we need to appreciate him as much as we can.
Isn't Stanway quite young?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's like 21, 22.
That's impressive to get 100 appearances at this level at that age for one club. It's like usually someone that young breaking through at a team like Thistle, it's like there would be like a Premiership team that probably would have snapped him up by now. So
yeah,
fair play.
It was that. I think it was. We sent him out on loan to Airdrie. I think it was.
That was when they were in League One still. It was the 22-23 season, I think.
Yeah, I think it was the Dingwall season. So he made a couple of appearances. I think it was in the League Cup and stuff like that, and in the league games, I think we can put him on. But we sent him out on loan to Airdrie, and ironically speaking, I think that loan done the world of good for him. I think they ended up getting promoted that season as well. So I think they got promoted for the playoffs. So it's been absolutely fantastic seeing him come on leaps and bounds, especially coming through the Weir Academy as well. So nonetheless, back onto the game in hand we're talking about here. It's just it was 1-6, to be honest. I was expecting a bit more for Airdrie. I think they had a massive sitter just at the end of the first half. I think looking at it for the standard didn't look as bad, but when you watch the highlights, it's got to be scoring that. It's probably, symptomatic of how they're down the bottom end of the season when they can't really put away chances like that. And Airdrie have been played really well against us. Um, I think they've been very unlucky with especially not coming away with wins, if not at least a draw. Whenever we played against them this season, so I expected a wee bit more, and I suppose they did have a decent kind of first half chance, but a few chances here and there in the first half. But other than that, it was very comfortable for us, very comfortable. And for us, it was just an important 3 points up the road. I would have, and I should have been. It should have been a lot more comfortable. With the chances that we had as well, especially in the first half, it just peppered them, absolutely peppered them in the first half. But just couldn't put them away after Stanway's first. But on another day, I think we take about 5 off them. But that result makes Tuesday night now, obviously with the game on Friday, away to Dunfermline, makes it incredibly important. You know what I mean? We win that, Queen's Park beat Dunfermline, we're level 1 points with St Johnstone. So, it was an important result to kind of close the gap and keep the pressure on St Johnstone. But Tuesday night, massive game Tuesday night. I think the last time Dunfermline beat us was 2022. I think they beat us 4-1 at East End Park. It was on BBC Scotland on a Tuesday night, which is very weird for a championship game. But that's the last time we beat us. So we do have a decent-ish record against Dunfermline at East End Park. Obviously, I think there's a few draws kind of spread out amongst the kind of wins that we've had, but it's a place that we've had relatively good luck at. So hopefully we win. I think we kind of need to win. I think all these games that are coming up, we just need to win. Keep the pressure on St Johnstone. Hopefully they drop more points and we kind of go on top of the league. I think that'd be a massive mentality boost for us if we do that. But for Airdrie, I don't know. Apart from, again, as I said, their 15 kind of minute spell, they looked pretty decent. They had a few decent half chances. They are poor. They are really poor.
But I was just going to say they've played some. I think Airdrie have got a bit of credit recently for they've been getting a bit of credit, I suppose, for playing some decent-ish football, and I think that is the case. They just can't score goals, and that's what's going to kill them. Obviously, Ewan Henderson. I think Henderson's up to 9 goals in the league. After him, they've got 3 guys who've scored 2 goals. Nobody else has scored more than 2 goals, which is not going to get you anywhere, unfortunately.
No.
Or I guess fortunately, depending on your perspective on Airdrie, but it's gonna cost them big time. And I think just kind of seeing what their fans are saying online and stuff, I think their heads are really starting to go down. There was a spell of time where they were getting some results, and there was a bit more excitement, I suppose, when Alan Taylor Sinclair was the interim manager, and then when obviously he was given the job permanently. I don't know that they've got it in them to win more than another couple of games at most this season, though, and I think that's gonna. I just think they've. I don't think they've recruited properly in January. I think they needed to be going out and getting a bit more experience. I don't know if Dom Thomas was the signing that they necessarily wanted either. I mean, I think they've. Obviously, Dom Thomas hasn't really played a significant amount of football in probably over a year at this point. And from what I've heard, he does look a wee bit unfit. They've tried to play him up front, and I think, am I right in saying they've tried to play him basically in the middle of the park on Saturday as well? That's not. Dom Thomas is a winger. He's an out-and-out winger. That's how you get the most out of him. But then again, maybe if his legs are going a wee bit now too, it's a tricky one. I don't know what the answer is for them realistically at this point. I really don't. I don't know. Mockery, good player, not a striker. I just don't know where they go from here, to be honest. I think if they don't start picking up more results in the next even week or two, they're gonna. I think they're in big trouble. I mean, I think they probably are in big trouble anyway. I think they could find themselves pretty much anchored to the bottom of the table and feeling like ninth is the best they can do.
Yeah, I've got
definitely. Just a word on. Oh, sorry, Callum. But just a word on Dom Thomas as well. He's a player that I normally kind of notice, whether that's. I think when he was at Ayr, he was pretty good at Queens Park. He was really really good. I think that's probably the best he's looked.
Probably,
to
yeah.
be honest. He's a player that I've always kind of noticed, and I would have took him at Thistle about a couple of seasons ago on Saturday. I think the only time I noticed him was when he got hooked after an hour, and he walked past the, in front of the north stand to go onto the bench, and aye, he looks incredibly unfit for what I've seen. But I think they've got some decent as well. That Lewis Strap as well. I think he's really good for Ayr as well. Airdrie, sorry, not Ayr. I think Lewis Strap's really good for Airdrie, but I think they've got quality kind of sprinkled about the pitch, but I don't think they've got enough. They've never really replaced that. Is it Ben Wilson as well from last year? Didn't really replace him, and I think Henderson is good. I think he's a decent striker at this level, but as Enzo says, I just don't know whether they're going to pick up the wins. You know what I mean? Or the results as well. Can I stay in the division? Aye.
I was going to say is I did have in my notes about the question being Airdrie are probably favourites to go down at this point. Enzo, you made the point about how Ewan Henderson was their top goal scorer in 9 and had a couple of players on 2. They're sitting with just 20 goals scored in the league this season. Yeah. And, it's like we're nearly in March. Like, it's just nowhere near good enough. And like you say, it's like you don't see where they're going to get more than a couple of wins from. I know where they're going to get a couple of wins from because in the league, and it's like they still have the Challenge Cup, but coincidentally they play us. So, but yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like, aside from when Aaron Taylor Sinclair was that interim manager, and he did have that little bit of run. It's like Airdrie just sort of just been there, really, like not really doing anything. It's like, there's a reason why. I think it took them until I think it was like game 12. It might have been the 12th game it took for them to get their first win, and that was after. Trying to think, they had Danny Lennon and Reece McCabe. That's the other one. It was after them two had departed. They'd only gone through 2 managers until they got their first win. And it's not. And like you say about the recruitment, there was Ben Wilson, and they've just not really brought in anyone.
And when ATS when he kind of did initially take over, I can't recall when he got the job permanently. I know it took a strange amount of time for it to happen, but like they went through a wee spell where they beat Wraith, they pumped Aki's in the cup, they went up to Dingwall and won a game, they beat Morton away, they got past Alloa in the Challenge Cup, who had a decent League One side. But since then, I don't know if they've won. They've won 1 league game since then. They've won 1 league game since then, and I don't see it. I don't know where they go. Honestly, I don't know how you fix that team right now. I really don't.
I think they're all one who went. They went away to East End Park. They beat Dunfermline.
Yes, that was the one they did.
That's the most recent win. So they're only winning the last 5, and before that, it's just another draw.
And that was in January. Still, I think that was the end of January.
I think so.
Bottom of the form table. But it does seem like they're going to be stuck.
And they don't have any depth either. That's the problem too. Like you look at their starting 11, which is capable of putting a shift in. But I feel as though they don't have anybody that can come on and change a game. I think that's what maybe they wanted Dom Thomas to do, but he's not going to be that guy for them, especially if they're not playing him in the right position.
It's just weird one over there. But we shall move on now to Arbroath against Dunfermline. Arbroath were looking to strengthen their grip on their 3rd place spot, which, let's face it, no one was going to be taking from them anyway. But it's always nice to get a result. Dunfermline, meanwhile, in a bit of a poor run of form and looking to gain some ground back on the playoff race, and it went to let's just say they had a fantastic start as 80 seconds into the game, a free kick from Arbroath's own half is launched towards like the corner edge of the box, and it falls to Ryan Dow, who jumps, wins the header, and it goes over Billy Terrell. Now you might be thinking, what sort of header was this if it's gone over Billy Terrell from that sort of angle? Billy Terrell was charging towards Dow at the corner. It's the most bizarre thing I'd seen. I couldn't believe what I was watching when I'd seen the highlights. It's like, why are you there? What did you think was going to happen? It's just the way it's not even like it loops all the way over. No, it like bounces at like the edge of the 6-yard box and bounces another 3 times before it rolls into the net. It's not like there was a lot of power in this header. It's just one of the most calamitous goals, and that is a way to describe this game. Just calamity, really. Dunfermline, however, would get an equaliser about 10 minutes later. Andy Todd, corner would come in, and it would fall to Todd at the edge of the box. He would volley, hits an Arbroath player or something on the head, and it goes over the Arbroath goalkeeper. Second half, where the weather just turned horrific. Like, you could just see it just progressively got worse throughout the highlights. A proper Gayfield experience, really. But so it's like Arbroath would get the lead after Aaron Muirhead bundled home a free kick, which I'm not sure why, but at some point in the aftermath, Neil Lennon got booked. And then Arbroath would then go 3-1 up after substitute goalkeeper Denise Mehmet went full Mehmet and from a corner just punched the ball into his own net, seemingly. Which, again, very funny. That's all I'm going to say. Just never change. Josh Cooper would get a goal back for the visitors in the 82nd minute. His low effort from 25 yards out, finding the bottom corner. But Finlay Marshall in the 88th minute would poke home a forfeit Arbroath after Mehmet made a double save, but the second one he just sort of parried straight at Finlay Marshall. And it's like the way Mehmet made these double saves is like he made the second one and he just looked up and seen the ball at Finlay Marshall's feet and he didn't even move. He just like consigned himself to defeat. You could just see him just go just completely give up. But although that wasn't the last bit of action, Arbroath would be reduced to 10 in the 94th minute. Jacob McIntyre got involved in a bit of a scrap, like right at the end, after just a tussle for the ball, really. But it was a second booking, so it is what it is. But yeah, that was it for the game. Arbroath, they're now 10 points clear of what you can describe as the midfield pack. Safe to say they have third, don't they?
I would imagine so, yeah. It would take something pretty spectacular for them to chuck that away at this stage. And I think that's a really big win for them, to be honest with you, because they hadn't been on particularly good form. I think the last league game they won before Saturday, there was the 3-2 game at Starks Park against Wraith, and that must have been, 6 weeks ago or something like that? Maybe a little bit more than that.
Probably, yeah.
No, it was the last, I know there's been a couple of Challenge Cup games they've played since then. And to be fair, they lost to Airdrie in the Challenge Cup as well in that span of time. But that's a huge win for them. It's weird actually because I feel as though they are the team at this stage which has the least to play for, really, because they're not going to finish in the top 2, I don't imagine, and they're not going to drop out of the top 4. Even if they do go on a really bad run of form, the teams below them are not going to do enough to catch up with them. Ayr aren't good enough, Wraith aren't good enough, Dunfermline, Morton, whoever else aren't good enough to do that. So they're in this weird sort of limbo, I think, from now until the end of the season. Obviously, the fans will want to see the performances carry on. If they can score loads of goals like they did on Saturday, brilliant. But yeah, I don't really know how they kind of see, like, if you're the co-managers, I don't know how you go into these games, how you see it. I suppose you just keep pushing and seeing whether you can eventually catch up with Thistle, because they're certainly closer to that than what they are dropping out the playoffs anyway. Dunfermline, however, they look quite easy to beat these days, and it's really strange because, again, if you're going to talk about form, there was that wee spell of time where obviously Dunfermline looked as though they had, like, properly they were, potentially on the verge of really going on a good run of form, kind of New Yearish time. They beat Wraith at Starks Park, and then obviously into January they beat Hibs, which is an amazing result. And then they went to Perth and they beat St Johnstone, an absolutely incredible result. And then since then, their league form has just taken a complete, like, it's just completely fallen off a cliff. And I touched on it earlier on, but it's injuries. Injuries are going to kill them. They've got so many injuries. The only kind of, when you're talking about their options up front, you've only really got Chris Kane, and if you're lucky, you get 15, 20 minutes out of him a week before his legs just give up because he's just so done with injuries. Zach Grudden's out, I think, for the remainder of the season. Caceres went back to Peru. Did we see that? That was a bit of an odd one. No idea what's going on there.
As well. It's like, I think the only thing he's done for Dunfermline is get involved in just a very South American headbutt red card against Partick Thistle earlier on this season.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I think that was kind of the last thing he'd done, yeah.
Before
and
this.
I think it's weird because he did potentially look like a bit of a player, but I have no idea, man. Like, a guy that was sold for what he was bought out for over £1 million, I think it was last year, by Sheffield United. Really, really strange. But then, so like the back line that they started with on Saturday, the oldest player was Ngenga at 23. They, Chilwell Mullins 21, Abdullah's 21, Todd's 19. The keeper was 21 as well. Like, you can't do that, man. Not at this level when you're playing against seasoned professionals that have been doing it, year in, year out in the Championship. You're going to get caught out big time. I say professionals. I realise they're both a part time, but it doesn't matter. They've got guys that have been around the block. And I would have serious concerns if I were a Dunfermline fan right now.
Kieran, your thoughts on this one?
First of all, I'd like to say I like how Enzo said that's Dunfermline very easy to beat. I would now. I can't wait for us to get scaled free.
I was going to say, because you play them tomorrow and then we play them on Saturday. So watch as they scud us both 4-0.
Andrew Todd scoring all the goals.
I'm not allowed to speak on these matters, considering how it went the last time before the derby, where I was just like, oh yeah, Dunfermline are in terrible form. We're looking somewhat decent, because I think it was not long after we beat Ross County 6-0, and then we got scudded at home, and it's just like, well, what the
fuck? I mean, that just kind of hits nail on the head. It's just how far, like how completely inconsistent Dunfermline are, and how they have been for. I mean, last year they were staring down the battle at a relegation dogfight. I don't know if that's a bit too far, but they weren't far off it until Aki's got their points deduction. Me and Callum were kind of on here talking about last season, how poor they were in front of goal, and as Callum said, I think in the whole of 42 they had the worst attack.
The worst of the 42, it was the worst of actually the top 5 tiers, and then of the 290 teams that were in the pyramid at the time, they had the 4th worst defence. I don't know how I remember that, but...
but just on the game itself, just going to touch on, that's a massive result for Arbroath in terms of the playoff. I think that kind of pretty much has consolidated them, and at least at the very most finishing in the playoffs. I don't think they'll fall out it now. If they finish 4th, then I mean they're still in the playoffs, But I think as well, Arbroath, I think their fans would want to kind of see how far they could push us out the top 2. I think we still to play them at Firhill. We play them on Saturday, and then we play them at Gayfield 2 days before my birthday. So I think that's sort of the second last league game or something like that. So, and that if things go their way, that could be a massive game. You know what I mean? Come the end, but I think I don't think they will kind of push it. I think 10 points maybe just a bit too far. Saying that, I'm saying Motherwell are in a title race and they're 10 points off Hearts. So I mean, anything can happen, I suppose. But just that the goals Dunfermline conceded just far too poor. And mind you as well, if you remember back to, I think it was back to September, and that's kind of gotten a bit of revenge for Arbroath because Dunfermline went to Gayfield and took 5
Yeah.
off them. So that's kind of exercised the demons of that result, I suppose. But aye, the goalkeeper, just to touch on that, the goalkeeper, both of them had absolute howlers for Dunfermline that day. And Neil Lennon, obviously, I think we were talking about it off air, but he certainly didn't hold back on criticising him on his post-match interview. Pretty much threw them under the bus. Pretty much told them that goalkeeping errors of I think they said of hampered them or something like that, something along those lines, cost them today and in fact the entire season. I was like, fucking hell, like fair
It's
enough
one
if that's
thing.
how you feel.
It's one thing blaming a player for one result, but to say that it's impacted your entire season, man, that's not. I don't know, man.
Aye,
It's not gonna inspire anybody. I don't understand what the logic is
aye.
in doing that.
Especially
You know
when
what
it's a
it
team
is?
full of young players, as you said, Enzo.
Yeah. And I
It's
don't think
I
Lennon's
don't,
the kind of guy that's going to. I think if you're a young guy and you've got a manager that's saying things like that, you're actually just going to be scared to go out there and try things in case you're the next
aye,
one that gets caught in the firing line. I just don't think
aye,
he's the kind of manager that's going to put his arm around them and get the best out of them.
I'm
aye. I
starting to
mean,
think this is
as you
the
said,
Neil
but
Lennon
Cup
implosion.
run aside, I mean, I think it's been a pretty poor season for Dunfermline standards, and I mean, who knows? They might end up getting the playoff, clinching that 4th playoff spot because obviously AR, Wraith, and that are very, very inconsistent kind of thing, so they could. But Dunfermline really need to find wins very, very soon, very, very quickly. They need to get a run together as well, or they could, I know I've seen a few other fans as well after the game on Saturday saying that they could find themselves down the other end of the league. I don't think they will. I think they will just be okay. But I mean, if teams, especially if Queen's Park are picking up points in that and are starting to get a bit of a run together, they very well could get dragged into that dogfight. And I mean, that would just be, especially for the amount of money they've thrown about. Obviously, as you said, they spent that. There's over $1 million on that Jefferson Caceres, who I don't
So
think he's
that's
Dunfermline
played
didn't
just
spend a
much.
million
And,
to Ferris. Sheffield United spent $1 million on him, and then
oh,
6 months later he
aye,
ended up at Dunfermline, which surely they'd have spent some form of money on, like
uh,
probably at least 6 figures as well. I think they spent at least 6 figures on Zach Rudden, which
yeah,
still at this point of the season, I'm just like, why have you spent 6 figures on him?
it
But
was good for them to be fair when he played. He's just
mhm,
been unlucky with injuries.
yeah. I think that's been the story of Zach Runn's career. I think it's just been um, far too unlucky with injuries. Even at us, it took him about I think it took him about 5, 6 months, 7 months, and this is including the COVID break that we had as well. Um, Took him quite a while to get back into injuries. It took him a while to start scoring, and but it's just been very unlucky for him. But it's absolutely wild. But I think that's Neil Lennon's as well, as we said, as we alluded to earlier on. That's his kind of quote on a sugar peg, you could say.
It's like with Neil Lennon, he does have a record for this where it just once it starts to go wrong, it gets really wrong. Like we saw that with Celtic last time around, and we know what he's like. He's prone to these sort of outbursts, and who knows what it'll do to plays in the changing room, all that sort of stuff. Although it's like when he did mention about the goalkeepers, it's an issue that Dunfermline have had for years at this point. It's like the last experienced goalkeeper that they signed was Mehmet, like 5 years ago or something daft like that. And it's like, how have you not found someone better than Mehmet? He's probably the worst goalkeeper in the league. it's it's ridiculous. Like they've gone, and it's like you say, it's like they've spent this money, and they do have. It's like having a squad as young as Dunfermline's is fine and it can work, but as long as you have an experience in like certain positions, so like an experienced goalkeeper to help with young lads in defence, of course, an experienced centre back. They do have Benedictus, but he's been in and out.
Benedictus is he's on his last legs though. At this
He's not championship quality. He's not championship quality anymore, and who knows if he's going to end up in the jail or not. You've got Chris Hamilton in the midfield, and then you've got Chris Keane up front, and you can't really name that many others. It's like you got Zach Rodden as well, but it's like in that midfield defensive department, it's very young, and it's like yes, those youngsters are players who are getting into like the Scotland under-21s side. It's like Andy Todd is their top goal scorer with 10 league goals now. He's been a standout for them, and as much as I hate the specky bastard, he's been very good for them.
But he's not.
Friendly
he's
fire,
not been as
Cal.
good
Friendly
recently.
fire.
But it's like it's just not happening with them, and I won't be surprised if Lennon's away before the season ends, especially if they get dragged into this, into the bottom three. Because, what is it? Yeah, they play against Queen's Park midweek. See if Queen's Park win that.
Saturday.
Even with the cup final coming up, that could very easily be Lennon away. Very easily, if the board
I think their cup run, I think if they haven't done so well in the cup, I think it'd be a lot more closer to it. But I think that they have, obviously, as you said, they've made the quarterfinals, and kudos for that. They beat Hibs at home. I mean, that's an incredible result. And I think on the day as well, just to touch on it, I think they played really, really well. But I don't know. I think Lennon. I don't think we'll see him get sacked. I don't think so. That's just me speaking personally. I mean, if they do, at the very worst, get dragged down to 8th or whatever, or 9th, then down that bottom end when they should be looking at the playoffs, maybe that might force their hand to do something. But I don't think we'll see them get sacked. Do you know what I mean? Unless something drastic happens. But it's just that it's been a constant theme, but because I think he's been under pressure for at least 2, maybe 3 spells throughout this season. There's been periods where he has been, a few of the fans have been calling for the head, and it's not just been 1 or 2 on social media. Like, it's been a good number of people.
And it's not like, see, like points wise, I don't have the exact figures in front of me, right? But I can't imagine they are that much better off in terms of points at this stage of the season than when McPake gets sacked, for example. Like, realistically, I don't think they're in that significantly better a position. But I suspect Lennon won't get sacked either unless they somehow get dragged into the bottom 2, which I don't think is realistic, just because I don't see everybody below them picking up enough points for that. And I think they will kind of relatively pleasantly part ways in the summer.
I think Dunfermline fans' concerns about that, though, has been that although they haven't kind of fell back on the McPake kind of level of how bad they were, they've also kind of not really improved on it. They've kind of stagnated a bit.
Yeah, with much more money being spent.
Yeah, aye. But a lot of their concern is that we've stagnated and we've not made any improvements, like especially with the investment. I think that's why it's kind of ramped up a level, and we know how much pressure McPake was under as well. By a lot of their fans as well, even when they were winning League One, there was a few of them not kind of happy with it. But I mean, I couldn't even call it whether they stay mid-table or go playoffs at this point. I just think they're far too inconsistent, and I've said that for so long, but it's true.
I think they're more likely to be looking behind the way than up, if I'm honest.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'll be looking forward to this Dunfermline downfall. Don't you worry.
I'm not convinced you're that much better off, mate. Give it a few weeks and we'll see.
I'm very vocal in my concerns for us, but if Dunfermline manage to be worse than us, I'm more than happy.
They'll get their 3 points against us in Kirkcaldy and they'll stay up, Enzo. That's what it is.
Aye, that's one. I know I've got a guaranteed 3 points there, so. So it's like we'll move on from that one, and we'll head towards the sort of lower mid-table now. Queen's Park at home to Greenock Morton. Queen's looking to continue their recent turnaround since the end of January, whilst Morton looking to also continue their good form in their surprise push for the promotion playoffs. Enzo, you were at this game, so I shall let you take us away.
I was. It was a very entertaining game of football, to be honest with you, even from a neutral perspective. It was really quite end-to-end. Some good goals and a lot of fun just to witness. Obviously, I feared the worst when we conceded a goal 3 minutes into the game. I will say, I don't think it was a free kick, but it also wasn't handled particularly well. So the free kick comes in. I don't really know what happens. Falls to the edge of the box. Cal Ferry makes a decent enough save, but the way it comes back out, Matty Shields tries to head it wide, and he just heads it into the back of the net, and it's really unfortunate. I think that's his. This is a bit ridiculous. I think that's his fourth own goal this season, and despite that, I still think he's been one of our best players. So it says a lot about how decent he's played. But to be on 4 own goals, maybe he's only officially been credited with 3 of them, but I think he's actually scored 4 of them, and that's really really unusual. I've no idea what the record is, but it can't be that high. So yeah, fortunately, it didn't take long for us to equalise. Rodney McGregor kind of takes a shot on the edge of the box, and I think it hits off Todorov's knee, slows the ball down, redirects it a little bit, and it's the big man's first goal in a Queen's kit. And I have to say, spoiler alert, he was my man of the match on Saturday. He was absolutely phenomenal. He got right under the Morton defence's skin from pretty much pretty much after they scored that goal. We were on top for the entire first half, and it was really disappointing not to go in with the lead at half time. But he had them. I mean, he had them so wound up. The team and the fans. The fans. I sit quite near the away fans at Lesser Hampden, and I genuinely thought some of their heads were going to explode. It was quite funny to witness, and he was using his body to win fouls, and he was maybe going down a little bit easily. So I can understand the frustration. We've all been there, but that's a kind of nous and streetwise that we've missed for quite a long time. So from that perspective, it was actually quite good to see. Then in the second half, Henry Fieldson chips in with another goal for us to go 2-1 ahead. Brilliant. I think that's now his third goal of the season as well, which is great for a young 20-year-old left back who I think is going to go on and have a fantastic career. Unfortunately, it didn't take that long for us to let Ian Wilson score. It was a decent finish, and I think we were a little bit unfortunate in the way that it fell to him in the box, but we could probably have defended a little bit better yet again. But fortunately, we were able to take the lead once again for the final time. And I have to say, Callum Smith, what a ball it was into Aidan Conley in the back post, who I thought was probably offside. Now that I've seen the highlights, I don't think it was. I think it was just a spectacular pass, spectacular ball, and Conley did really well to connect with it and put it into the back of the net. The game wasn't entirely done at 3-2 though, because Cal Ferry had to make a bit of a stop. I don't know if he necessarily handled it the way that he was hoping to, but he did manage to keep it out, and he managed to stop it from dropping to any of the Morton players, to give them a chance to equalise yet again right to the death. And we held on for a 3-2 win, a really, really big 3-2 win. And for the first time since late September, October 2024, we've won 2 league games in a row, which is a ridiculous amount of time to wait for that to happen. But it was a really, really I don't think 3-2 was reflective of the game. If I'm honest with you, like for me, we were on top of that game. Morton were dangerous when we allowed them to get it out wide to put balls into the box. They were putting in some really good balls into the box, and granted, that's probably something that we struggle to handle a little bit more than what we ideally should. But there are so many positives to take from this, because now. So I just want to highlight something, because obviously I've not been on in the past couple of weeks or whatever, but I think I'm going to make a statement here, right? I think despite the fact that we lost our top goal scorer in January, we have actually come out of January with a stronger squad overall, because in Todorov, Callum Smith, Ricky Lamy, who unfortunately seems to have picked up a bit of a knock, which is a shame because I thought he looked all right for us, and now also Scott Martin. We have added over 500 games of first team experience to our squad. And when previously we were bringing on young boys who've barely played any football when we're trying to see out a result or potentially claw our way back into a game, when Crichton had to make substitutes on Saturday, he brought on Scott Martin, who came on and basically spent half an hour trying to hurt Morton. And he did it. I mean, he picked up a yellow card, which is obviously something that Scott Martin does. You know yourself. That's just the type of player he is. Really, really tenacious. And for want of a better word, it's been a long time since we've had that kind of bastard in our squad, and I think that's really, really going to come in handy. And we brought in Michael Ruth, who's now back from injury as well, and that's going to be another significant boost for us. So yeah, I'm feeling good about things right now. I'm cautiously optimistic about our chances of I mean, listen, I would still bite your hand off for 8th right now. I would, if you could call that league table the way it is, I would say yes, please give me that. But I think there's reason to be optimistic about enough that I think we could string together another few wins and kind of finish 5th, 6th, and I think that would be an absolutely incredible achievement. We'll see how the next few games go. Obviously, we've got St Johnstone tomorrow night, which is a tough one. But following St Johnstone, we've got Dunfermline and Airdrie, and I think those are huge. Those are potentially 2 season defining games. The St Johnstone one less so, but the Dunfermline and the Airdrie games could potentially be season defining games. And I'm really excited to see how the next wee spell goes. From a Morton perspective, I was a little bit let down by them. Not let down, obviously, because I didn't want them to be good or win the game. But based on what I saw from the game against Dunfermline midweek, and now I know obviously Brophy was out, which is maybe a bit of a problem for them. Or maybe it's not, though, because they were trying to get rid of him in January, weren't they? But I don't think they looked that sharp. I don't know if maybe it's just too many games in a short period of time. I thought they got sucked into the kind of gamesmanship a little bit, especially by guys like Todorov. And I just don't think it was a particularly strong performance from them. I think Ian Murray will rightfully have been a little bit disappointed in how they played on Saturday. And as I said earlier on, I don't know if 3-2 is necessarily reflective of the game, but I also don't care. 3 points are 3 points, and I'm delighted with that.
Yeah, I was gonna. It's like the one thing I do have in notes is about Queen's Park starting to look up rather than down.
We'll see.
Like you say, it is a case of the Dunfermline, which it's like you've got St Johnstone midweek. That's a free hit, but like you say, Dunfermline and Airdrie up next. It's like you're 5 points clear of the bottom 2 with a game in hand in Ross County and 2 games in hand on Airdrie, and you still got to play them again soon. Yeah, it's looking pretty promising. It's all of a sudden, it's like since January, it's starting to look as though as if you are going to be joining us in this weird fight for 4th somehow.
I mean, look, we're 5 points off the relegation playoff, but by the same token, we're only 6 points off the promotion playoff, and we still need to play Ayr twice. We play them actually, I think, twice in a week in March, so those will be quite important. But we'll get to that. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We do have 2 really important games before then. The St Johnstone game, I agree with you that it is. I mean, I don't know if there are any free hits at this stage of the season, right? I don't know if there are any free hits, but what I will say is that the pressure is certainly on them, not on us tomorrow night. And both times we've played St Johnstone this season so far, we've only lost by 1 goal. The game at Lesser Hampden, it was a late winner. The game at McDermott Park, we were losing 3-0 and we brought it back to 3-2. It ended up losing 4-3. So I give us half a chance against them, but as I say, it's on them to come out tomorrow night and see, and prove that they are the stuff of champions, because they've maybe not been doing that quite as much as they'd like to recently. And we've not lost by more than it's been a while since we've lost by more than a goal at home. I think it's maybe only happened one time.
It might have been against us. Season. It would have been against us when we beat you.
At home.
At home. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I think our Broth are the only team that have beaten us by more than a goal at home this season. I think. I might be
forgetting. Yeah, that was like August.
Is that not the opening game?
It was.
I think it might have been the opening game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was 3-1.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Definitely. I mean, I'll be definitely having my Tetris Iron Brew Queen's Park away kit on tomorrow, in the hopes Queen's Park do a favour for us. But I think you can hit the nail on the head there, Enzo. For what I've seen anyway, I think it seemed like a pretty entertaining game from a neutral point of view. I think both teams kind of went at it. I think Queen's Park, probably had the line, probably the better share of the chances, you would say.
And
Morton,
possession as well.
Aye, probably Morton. On the other hand, with the chances they had that they didn't really take, I think there was one that did it hit the bar or
it came off. I think Ferry made the save and touched it onto the bar. Actually,
but either that, they're probably thinking they probably maybe could have on another day took a point away from it. But I think on the one hand, I think with the chances they had and the way Queen's Park took them and battled back, obviously if they go on a goal down, I think they deserve to win. And it's massively important for you. I think first of all, I think it is kind of it's normal to kind of look in and be like, oh, we could actually make a push for the playoffs. But I think the goal for Queen's Park, be all and end all, is to get to survive in the championship. You know what I mean? Stay up in the
100%.
championship.
100%.
But at the same time, like if you start picking up results and you're already on a good bit of form now, why not?
Yeah.
I think you could kind of punch up and kind of go up the leagues. But also I want to say as well on that, have you seen the McTominay mural?
Yeah. I took a wee
Yeah.
picture of it actually when it was. You can see it brilliantly from the
Yeah.
stand at Leicester.
It's
It's really good. It's really good. Which is actually it was quite appropriate actually because on Saturday, big Todorov tried to hit an overhead kick at that end of Leicester Hampden, and I was wondering whether we'd maybe have to paint over that night, but no, he didn't quite get it on target. So I think one of the things is so since Josh Fowler left, and that was, let's be honest, and I include myself in this, that was for me the moment I thought we're done. We're basically done. I didn't think we would reach 27 points for the remainder of the season, and we're now on 27 points. We've played 4 league games since then. Obviously, we visited Ibrox as well, but we don't need to talk about that. We've played 4 league games since then. We've beaten Arbroath, we've beaten Ross County, and we've beaten Morton. We lost 1-0 to Ross County home, which was really, really frustrating. But that was a really strange game because we had to take off a few players and bring on some young boys because they were picking up knocks here and there. And unfortunately, Big Ikpeasu just came on and ran right through our defence. And that was disappointing. But the fact that we bounced back from that county loss and the absolute nightmare horror show at Ibrox to go up to Dingwall and win, and then to beat Morton as well, I think there's a real team spirit there, like a real kind of belief about their abilities. And the really key thing is, in Josh Fowler's absence, other guys are starting to chip in with the goals. So Aidan Conley scoring a couple of goals, Fieldson, Shields, now Todorov's chipping in as well. I'd like to see Callum Smith chip in too. He's not scored yet, although he has set up 1 or 2 at least. And the game plan has totally changed. So before it was just a case of get the ball to Josh Fowler and eventually something might happen. But now we're trying to play it behind a little bit more, where the focus and the responsibility spread a little bit, across the rest of the squad. And maybe, and I'm not for 1 second suggesting that Fowler was holding us back because he's a phenomenal player. But maybe that's what we needed to get some of these other guys into games and contribute the way that we've seen a little bit more over the past 3 or 4 league games instead. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think I can only kind of touch on the experience with Thistle, but it's kind of similar to when we lost Graham in the summer.
Yeah.
That we went and lost a 15 goal a season striker. I'm thinking, well, where the hell are our goals going to come from? And we bring in Tony Watt, obviously we bring on Alex Samuel. I think his goal record might not be there, but he is. The work he puts on the pitch is incredible. He's an absolute workhorse. Similar to Todorov, who again his goal record might not be there, but he's never one that kind of shies away from getting the ball and stuff like that and putting the work in. I think that when I seen that, obviously when the fellow was going to go to St Johnstone, when that happened, I was like, Queen's Park are doomed, but it's obviously kind of had the opposite effect kind of thing, where it's actually kind of kicked the rest of the team into gear a wee bit to contribute and not just rely on one guy. It's looking. I think Queen's Park are in a better place than what they were like 2 or 3 months ago.
Well. This kind of sums it up, right? Obviously, we've still got what is it? 12. How many games have we still got to play? No, not 12. 9 games to play. No, it's 12, isn't it? Still 12 games we've still got to play. Yeah,
we've got 12. It's between 10 and 12 games for everyone still to play.
Right. Okay. With Josh Fowler in our squad, we won 3 games all season. Since he left at the end of January, we've won 3 league games. So we've won the same amount of league games since Josh Fowler left in about a month as what we did all season with him in the squad. And that's not a criticism of Fowler, by the way, who I think is a great player, and I really appreciate what he did for us. It's a compliment to the rest of the guys and to Sean Crichton and his recruitment too.
I just want to say it's a right laugh. It's a right laugh that the third goal was 2 former Rovers players linking up. Sorry.
It's a good goal too. It's a good goal.
So, we'll move on now to the final game of the weekend. We're definitely we're now in 20 in. I'm just noticed. But final game of the weekend, and it is Ayr versus Ross County. Ayr looking to strengthen their hold on fourth spot. Meanwhile, County are looking to hopefully move off of the bottom. Yeah, a 3-minute highlights package probably tells you everything you need to know about this game. There wasn't a lot. Trying to think, Ayr hit the bar and there was an effort cleared off the line, but aside from that, there was nothing really to talk about in this game. Probably the real talking point is what this has done to the table. Really, we were mentioning earlier about like the points gaps. It's like Ayr in fourth and Queens Park in eighth. 6 points is the difference, and it's getting. All of a sudden, another team has joined this. Two teams have joined this battle for that final fourth spot, and who knows who is going to take that fourth spot? Because no one looks convincing enough. Like
I wouldn't feel comfortable.
I wouldn't put money on anyone on there in here to put it on. They all have an equally good / bad chance of finishing.
I was going to say bad chance.
It's like nobody wants that last playoff spot. I mean, you've got kind of teams that are punching up a wee bit. Obviously, you've got kind of Queen's Park snapping at their heels. Whether that actually is the case to finish fourth, I think that may be a bit of a stretch. I don't think Enzo would.
You need to be too consistent. It's a level of consistency that I think is unrealistic.
But at the start, it was like there was like a 3-horse kind of race between whoever wants fourth, and it's wild. But I think that like looking at it, the game that honestly the game would get fit by stop. It was that bad. Obviously, Ayr hit the bar and that, but other than that, Christ, that's again vital points dropped for Ayr. I mean, on the face of it for Ross County, it's a pretty good result away down at Somerset, clean sheet and a point. Mind you, I think they need to start picking up a lot more wins than they're drawing as well. But that's again Ayr dropping vital points, especially at home. I'm pretty sure their home record isn't that great. But it's mental, absolutely mental. And as you said, Callum, 3 minutes, 16 minutes long for a highlights package. I think that tells you all you need to know about how bad this game was.
It's like Leaf against Morton last week. One that I was saying was completely dog shit. Somehow had 6 minutes worth of highlights, I think. Or it might have been another one prior. But yeah, it's like they only have 3 minutes. It really tells you about what that game was like. But the thing is, this was a case of Ayr with one of the worst home records in the league versus Ross County, who I believe have the worst away record in the league. Although, saying that, with that point, let me just quickly check. I wonder if that point has put them above us. No, it's put them level with us. It's put the level of points with us when it comes to away points earned, with just a 12. United, meanwhile, are 6, but the thing is, they've only earned 15 points from their 12 home games, which for a team looking to get into the playoffs is pretty bad. And especially with the expectations that they would have had at the start of this season. But, Enzo, any thoughts on this one?
No, other than I've finally reached the point where I've accepted that Ross County will be in a relegation battle until the end of the season. I was consistently of the belief that they were going to turn it around eventually, and then they showed signs of improvement when Kets originally came in. They beat Thistle, didn't they? And they drew with St Johnstone as well. And I thought, right, this is it. They're going to turn the corner. They're going to finish 6th or something like that. But no, I now think they are fucked. Honestly, I think they're going to be in a battle right until the end of the season. And I just don't know. I mean, Ket's clearly. I don't know if it's necessarily his fault. I mean, he seems to be playing a really boring brand of football where he just lumps it up the park and hopes that Jordan White can get onto the end of something. Obviously, he's now getting Piazza, but I can't. They're just so disjointed as a team. They don't look like they're playing for each other. They don't look like there's any real connection among the squad, and it's gonna going to be problematic for them. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? If they finish 9th, I would be willing to put a decent sized bet on them winning a relegation playoff against Alloa or whoever it might be. When it comes down to that Steny potentially, but it's just not where they want to be as a club. Ayr, on the other hand, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they did end up finishing 5th and dropping out of the top 4. I just don't think they've been anywhere near consistent enough. And the next few games will give a better insight into whether that's realistic. I don't think they're. I mean, I actually don't think Ayr. I know that Ayr fans aren't particularly happy with how their season's going, and I know that they feel a bit bored of it, if anything, because they've been like pretty much consistently 4th for the majority of the year. But I don't think they're getting quite enough stick for how badly they have underachieved this year. I mean, that's not a cheap squad. That's not a cheap manager. That's a manager that did have expectation on him. And it's a club that is investing in the club and the facilities and everything else with the goal that they do want to become a Premiership team at some point very, very soon. And I'm not convinced that anyone near as close to that is what they'd hope, just generally speaking beyond this season. And I think kind of similar to what I was saying about Neil Lennon, I think regardless of what happens, unless he somehow gets them promoted, but I really don't see that. I think it'll be a kind of nice working with you, thanks, bye between Ayr and Scott Brown at the end of this season.
Yeah, it's like last season they win a title battle to an extent with Falkirk and Livingston until probably about this time last year.
Yeah, but this stage, I think,
Aye, definitely.
And even with their fall off at the end of the season, they finished 10 points off of Falkirk on 63. They finished with 63 points and a goal difference of 18. They're on 40. They're on 33 points with 12 games to go. So highly unlikely they're going to reach. They're probably. Christ, I won't even be surprised if they don't even break 50. They won't even break 50, and they're 17 points off the lead now. And even if you want to say, oh well, that's St Johnstone, they're 14 off of Partick Thistle, who they finished 9 points clear of last season. It's just you thought with last season, it's just like, okay, they're starting to build something, they can kick on with this. No, they have. If it wasn't for Ross County, they would be the biggest underachievers in this league.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's only because Ross County are astronomically fucked this entire season. It's not because Ayr have actually done a week. County are just so far and beyond anyone's expectations for them this year that you can't compare it. But it's not at all what I think anyone expected. I think I maybe had them to finish second, but being a third, maybe, but properly being a title hunt, and it's just not panned out that way. And like I say, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they didn't make the top 4.
Yeah, absolutely not. Just to touch on County as well, I think County have just became a wee bit of a kind of retirement home for players who are not so much not cut out for this level. They've got great players on paper, but I think they've got an act now. They've got the Kai Stephen, for example, Ross Docherty, Declan Gallagher. You could probably even add Uche Ekwezu into that bracket.
A couple of those names that you mentioned there have actually left in January.
Mackay Stevens away, and they punted him at the end of January, and they also sent. Who was it?
Who was the centre back?
I can't recall. They punted 2 of them on the same day at the end of, or maybe even the beginning of February. I can't remember when it was exactly. But they definitely
punted 2 old boys getting punted.
Yeah, so see when we beat County up in Dingwall last week, Stuart Kettlewell said something in his interview which I think is probably pretty reflective of how County fans are feeling right now. And he talked about how, every week the fans pay their money, and then at the end of the week the players, expect a paycheck in their pockets. And he said some of them do not deserve that this season. And obviously you can't just not pay somebody because they're playing poorly. That's not how employment law works. But I can understand the sentiment, really. I just don't know how long. I know the fans want to hear that. Like, that's a great thing if you're a fan hearing that kind of passion from your manager. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to get the players to buy into your plan either.
I was about to say, when it comes to before we move, it's like with Ross County, yeah, I absolutely agree. They're going to finish bottom 2, and I'm saying this before we play them. So good, well done, Ross County, on your win next week. But I think with Air, I was going to make the point about how I think it's Serie B in Italy, where when it comes to the playoffs, it's either Serie B. I don't think it's Serie B.
I know exactly what you're referring
Yeah,
to.
where it's just like you have to have like a minimum, like you have to be within a certain points threshold of I think either first or second.
Yep.
So
the top
if you're outside of that, then you just lose your playoff plate. It's like that playoff plate is gone.
Right. So the top two go up automatically, and if the third place team is 10 or more points above their fourth place team, then they go up automatically and they don't have a playoff.
Yeah,
which I think is
actually
quite
it shouldn't be a case of just like whoever finishes fourth does not deserve the playoffs. I am including Reef in that. It's like we could finish fourth, and I'd just be like, "How did we get here? Like, this is just awful." Like, what is it? It's like if I look at last season, Partick Thistle managed to get into the playoffs on the final day. They managed to beat Livingston, and they finished the season on 55 points, and Reef are fifth on 53. Like I said, I don't see anyone else getting 50 points. Really, it's bad. Like what was the season before for the playoffs? Yeah, Airdrie 52, Partick 55, and I don't see anyone getting 50 points in this midfield, and that's including Air. And it's dreadful, just really, really bad. But
it's a good laugh, though, isn't it?
Oh yes.
No, being involved in this mediocrity, but it's like slightly below mediocrity, where it's just shit, but it is just people who are somehow more shit. That's just what it is.
Do you think you're in a relegation scrap, Cal?
Get back to me after Ross County. Get back to me next week on this, because I was just like. I said last week how it's like there was a red button in the glass case and I have a hand on the glass case. My hand is now off the glass case, but I'm fully prepared to grab the hammer and bang.
That is for me the most obvious stick on 0-0 draw in the history of the Scottish Championship.
I cannot wait to travel to Dingwall for the worst game of football, and I'm including Greenock. I'm including Greenock 2 weeks ago.
I suppose you're getting involved here against spend all your money just to not forget, just to not remember one bit of the game. You know what I mean? So,
I'm Malad next door. That's perfect.
Yeah,
but
enjoy your £9 pints, Cal.
Many beers will be drank on the train. Don't you worry. But right, so that is it for this weekend's fixtures. Right, so we can finally look ahead to the next batch of fixtures. We're still in the midst of midweek games. One day we will have a week without them. So on the Tuesday, as mentioned, Dunfermline are at home to Partick. Kieran, how are you feeling about that one?
I think I kind of touched base on it when I was talking about the result for Saturday there. I mean, I think that we've got to win it now. I think we're in the stage now we can't really afford to drop points, especially when we're chasing St Johnstone's tail, so to speak. We're 3 points behind them. I think we've got to do it, and it's, as I said, it's a place we've got relatively good luck in. We're not lost here since 2022. But saying that, Dunfermline are inconsistent, very inconsistent to the point where they probably will go on and beat us, because that's how they work, that's how they operate. But I think I'm kind of getting slightly confident the more you tell me how pissed Dunfermline are. But I mean, I don't know. I'll kind of hold on to my hat there for a wee bit. But nonetheless, I think tomorrow is both games. Tomorrow is probably the most important kind of day in terms of fixtures and how the table could look by the end of it. But we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? It's midweek game up there. Now it's still a hard place to go to for any team, regardless how good our record is. So hopefully we win. No, I would like a win.
And of course, the other Tuesday league game is Queen's Park at home to St Johnstone Enzo. Again, we touched on this earlier, but
yeah. As I said, I think obviously the fact that we managed to pick up the 3 points on Saturday means that there's the pressure here is all on them. And I think that probably does suit us. And I do think I think they'll be feeling that. I think McPake is probably going to be back for them, and if that's the case, he'll likely start. And he likes playing against us. I mean, their entire front line used to play for us at various different times over the years, so they'll all potentially have a point to prove, especially Fowler, who hasn't yet found the back of the net for them. Obviously, I'd bite your hand off for a draw. I'm not expecting anything. Just want to keep it tight and give them a game and kind of play well going into the next two games, which are far more winnable on paper.
Aye, and then aye, sorry. Aye, of course, after that, Challenge Cup, meanwhile, Airplay Inverness on the Tuesday, and Airdrie are at home to Rafe on the Wednesday. Easily the funniest outcome for this is Inverness beating Air, and then us beating Airdrie, because then we finally get the 2020 Challenge Cup final that never happened. Because it's like that one got that the one that got postponed by COVID, and then I think it ended up being listed as a shared title, which just feels weird.
If that is the final, then Callum, is that the custody of the 2020 Ramsden's Cup or Challenge Cup
Aye, that's what it's
ladder
going to
match?
be. It's like whoever, if it is between Rafe and Inverness for that final, it's just a case of add another two, just like remove the half from the. It's worth 1.5 titles really, but
God's sake, Callum, you'll be catching up to our title count soon.
aye, that's how it'll be. But yeah, it's like Inverness. I would not be surprised if they won against Air, especially with how Air have been recently. Meanwhile, Airdrie against Rafe, like honestly, it's Rafe away against Airdrie. I have no hope. It's just like as bad as Airdrie have been, and even like last season when Airdrie were utterly putrid at the bottom of the table, I still had no hope going into games against them because they're our bogey team and it's just how it is. But aye, we can right. So Saturday games, meanwhile, Airdrie are home to Morton. That's a big one for both teams, obviously, with Airdrie in their relegation straight up, and Morton hoping for the promotion playoffs. Dunfermline against Queens Park again. Enzo, we touched on this earlier. You said this is a very big one. Potential, it's like depending on the results on Tuesday, obviously, it's like a win could take you above Dunfermline.
Yeah, well, let's just wait and see. But I'm looking forward to it. We've got a really decent record in Dunfermline. I don't think I've ever seen us. I mean, not since we've been in the championship, or even to get promoted to the championship. We also beat them to relegate them, if you remember that. So I don't think they've beaten us in Dunfermline in that whole period of time. So I fancy our chances.
And then there is Partick Thistle at home to Arbroath. Kieran, your thoughts on?
I mean, our last two games against Arbroath, they drew us at Firhill and arguably could have won it. Towards the end of that game, I think they played really well and it was a pretty good point for them. Good point for them on the day, and then away up at Gayfield in blustery conditions. I think it was just before Christmas. They beat us when we couldn't really play football that day. But I think it'll be. I think Arbroath will be looking at it if IB need to put pressure on St Johnstone Thistle, but Arbroath could see this as if we actually drop points, if Dunfermline beat us and they beat us on Saturday, they could be start snapping on our heels for second place. So, could potentially it could go one or two ways. But to say I'm confident, maybe at home we've done really well, but we've still yet to be beaten at home this season. But I don't know. I think it will be. I think it will be a tough game. It always has a bit of a scrap with Arbroath. But I think it could go either way. To be honest, I just hope we're still within touching distance. Hopefully, a chance to go top of the league. Results going our way, but I think it's just all about keeping pressure on St Johnstone. And aye, that's pretty much it, to be honest.
I forgot to make this point earlier, but I think it was it might have been about the time of the last game between Partick and Arbroath. I think it was around about December time or something like that. It was a case of if Arbroath had won that game, or it might have been a weekend where Partick dropped points, but so did Arbroath, and it was a case of if Arbroath had actually won either of those fixtures or something like that, then Arbroath would have been 2 points off of Hughes and 4 points off of St Johnstone. I forgot to mention that earlier.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. Meanwhile, up in the Highlands, it's of course Ross County against Raith. As mentioned, I was like, Ross County are in terrible form, but Raith are terrible away from home, and I have no idea what's going to happen. This screams 0-0. Speaking of screams 0-0, judging off of current form now is, of course, St Johnstone at home to Ayr, although depending on if it rains or not at any point this week, who knows, it might end up getting postponed. But, so finally get to round off of the table. St Johnstone's still in first on 50 points, but now Partick Thistle are on 47, just 3 points behind on the same amount of games played. Just ignore the 16 goal difference that needs to be overturned. Arbroath are in third on 40 points. Ayr are fourth on 33. Raith and Morton have got 30 points. Dunfermline have got 29. Queen's Park in 8th on 27. Then it's Airdrie in 9th on 23. And Ross County bottom on 23, but a goal difference worse than Airdrie's by 2. And I can finally end this episode. I think this might be a new record for us, I'll be honest. Might be
anybody
somehow.
Anybody who's still listening is a maniac.
Just giving us plenty to talk about, haven't they? But I highly doubt we'll ever get this long ever again. So if you have made it to this point, thank you so much for watching / listening, and we will be back next week. Goodbye.
Take care.
Yes.